Good. All right, Smithville Board of Aldermen meeting work session is called to order. First item is the GIS demonstration. I'm guessing that's what Gina's here for. It's got to be green.
Yes.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So this is what the GIS looks like when you just go in as a member of the public. So you can see our PCI data. And then just an example, we're going to be going through the sidewalks and identifying areas for ADA compliance. And sometimes it takes a little bit to load, especially with Wi-Fi. But you can click on this and it'll show you what road it is. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So you can click this and it'll say, you know, there's a curb right there, but it's not compliant. And it'll say if there's a vertical deflection, and you can click on this and it'll just show more information to the side and you can have a picture. This is an example. So Dwight True right there. But you can add an image of what's going on in the area so the public can go view that at a later time and see why it was identified as an improvement. So for the PCI, we have our 2020 data and our 2022 data. So if they want to see the comparison from year to year, they can. And then we rated it from 0 to 100 and have 4 categories. So that is done all over the city. We used to be did this with paper. And so now when we do it for 2024, it will be done in GIS. And then some additional things. This is a work in progress for the public side. We have our property info. We've been working with Clay County on sharing the owner information. They were kind of hesitant about having the owner name on our site because we don't have a seamless data sharing with them, with the assessor's office, so we get it quarterly. So we were just going to have the address shown and just not the ownership information. So if someone wanted that, then they would need to go to the Clay County GIS site. And then you can also select for zoning and it'll show all of the zoning throughout the city. If anyone has a question on that, they don't have to call us. They can always call, but they can also see it online. And they can also see what ward they're in. I'm going to ask our contractor, Sam LLC, to change this to a little bit more transparency so you can actually see where your address is. And then we also have our national flood hazard layer on here, and we can put a bunch of different available maps that are public. We can put any of these on our site. So if there's any ones you know of, we can have that on here. And so we can adjust the transparency here and you can see, you know, where your property is and just areas of concern on that flood hazard. And we get our imagery from the Mark aerial imagery. We're a partner in that. So that's updated, I think, every 2 years. All right, so now I'm going to show you what it looks like internally. Sign in. And so every time you go on the website, it has this disclaimer that, you know, everything is not, it might not be in the correct spot. So they also have to do their due diligence on locating any kind of infrastructure for projects. So this is what ours looks like. It looks a little overwhelming at first. So I'm going to turn this off and kind of show you everything as we go through it, just so it's not everything at once. So you zoom in, and then this is where you can see all that property information with the parcel lines. I can click if it wants to work. There we go. And then see the information on there. And so I'm going to open the utility data and turn that layer on. And as you'll see, as it loads, it's going to load all of our utilities in that area. And so I can click on this manhole. And then I can look at an image of what it looks like. That one isn't very good, so I might need to redo that one. But basically, this just is gonna help us, do inspections later on. We can go, say a house is saying, oh, I'm having some issues. We can go back and see what the area looked like. If it's like looked really plugged, or if we just need to do a cleaning, or over time, if we see something being more plugged, like someone dumping grease into a lift station, we would be able to see that over time. And then we have all of the measurements, so 8-inch PVC. And then we also have our stormwater and our water lines on here. And so our storm manhole also have an image on here. And then another cool thing we can do is the gravity main report. So I can click this, and then it'll generate a report for me and show me the slope it goes and the condition of the line. So it shows me everything in this area, what's there. There's like, and then the legend on the side. And then you can see the material, the depth it's at, and then what direction the slope is going. So that's useful in our planning. And then some work we have been doing, and turn the utility data off, is sidewalks. So our inspectors have been going around and inspecting our sidewalks for the new program. So that's what these little buttons are. So I can view additional details. It has all of the comments. One section of the sidewalk is cracked. It'll have the date. And then I can click on this image and it'll show us what's going on. So this is really going to help us with all of the planning purposes of that program. And our goal is to have this done by November. And so we'll be able to have a recommendation for priority areas next year. And then back. And then I know that the fire chief is here. So part of the water network, we have our hydrants. And something that we can add in here is add flow tests and flush records. And we have images of all the hydrants as well.
You get chief a login for that?
Yes. Yes. I was like, I'm going to connect with them after the meeting. So we'll have a login for everybody to update the information. And same with the sanitary sewer. So we could go in and I can add in a maintenance record. So say we had a line break or, a boring incident, we could go in and add that maintenance record and just have it up to date. So that's for utility. And sidewalks. We're also going to be drawing where the sidewalks are so we can identify where gaps are throughout our city. And then I've showed you the PCI, and something that we're going to add on to this road layer is the maintenance. So we would have MoDOT as 169, just so then people kind of understand, if there's a pothole on 169, we wouldn't be fixing that. That would be MoDOT. And we'll also be adding our snow removal areas, and then the maintenance for that, if it's county or state, just, working on transparency with the public. And we also have work orders. These are going to be changed to fit more of the city needs. And I've talked to the chief about making it department of what department will actually respond, so that we can track the performance on those. So those will just come up and we can have them as active or previous on our end. Let's see. And then right of way work, this will be a new layer. So whenever AT&T comes in, we can do a fiber install, and then I can select the area that they'll be doing that. So if I went in and then did edit city data and went in here. If I can get it to work. It worked earlier. Let's see. Well, I did it earlier, so I will practice it more. It's one of those things where once you practice it, then it'll work better. But anyway, we can highlight a whole entire area of where the fiber would be installed. So if this one neighborhood was being affected, we would be able to put that onto the public site and have that in there. And then we have the assessor data. So we're going to be getting that quarterly. And then additionally, we have the zoning and the wards, like I showed earlier. And then we are going to have a staff training on the 11th next week. And then after that, and once we get some of those public facing things cleaned up, we'll be posting it on the website for the public to use. So if you guys have any questions, I can answer them. Or if you guys want to see anything other kind of layers, we're going to be looking at adding some additional things like trash pickup days. Something else would be identifying city facilities and having those on there. And then having those maintenance things like I talked about.
So I just need to say for
Chuck.
both Gina and I were users of GIS. Gina has taken this on and has done a terrific job. A lot of this information will be very useful for developers. Anybody looking at the city to come in and do things. We'll use it for our projects. In fact, we've sent a lot of the information over to GBA to do our stormwater master plan with. And then, as Gina said, we'll get a lot of this public information out, like snow routes and who maintains what road and who's working in my neighborhood, and all that stuff will be available for the public without having to call us. They can just get on there, they can find out for themselves. Obviously, people can call us, but this just gives that information to people quickly. Once we get the work order stuff done, and we're talking probably a year or so down the road, but we can probably start identifying. You go out, you see a pothole, you take a picture, you send it to the GIS, it creates the work order, they go fix it. And we don't have, and then a response is sent back once the work order is finished. Hey, we got your pothole. So that's where we're heading with this stuff, but it's a great start from where we were. So, and a lot of the credit goes to Gina. So
Alderman
I
Uladol's
guess
ready to
all
take
the
pictures.
work goes to Gina.
He's got to be the sidewalk inspector.
Yeah, we can
Pothole
get you
finder.
access and have you
There you go.
do it
Start
on your
taking
walk.
pictures. There you go. Any questions? Alderman Schuler?
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is very, very good job. I like this a lot. One thing I would just kind of, when we put this out to public, is there a way maybe we can create like a few tutorials on like some of this stuff to make
Yeah.
sure that, people are doing it correctly and
Mhm.
not seeing
Well, I
something they're
think
not supposed to be seeing?
I had written a note to myself also, some context for those things. What is PCI? What does this
Yes.
mean? Just because you have a lot of information on those as well. So yeah, I'm just going to talk to Chuck and Gina about that.
Yeah, so
Make-
that's my
really-
plan. We have a GIS page on our website right now with just information about the project. And I was gonna have kind of a tutorial of like, click here to do this, click this first, then click this. So it's one of those things, the more you practice with it, the better you get. So we'll definitely do that.
And as Chuck said, it's great information to have to share with the residents. It's tremendous information to have in-house. As we provide information to you all for action on budget items or any utility information to be able to show information on a map, we've been really limited in using, we've gone as far as my early days here. We relied on Linda to use MapQuest to kind of make a map and figure out where things were. And that's, as Chuck said, many of us who've worked in other jurisdictions are used to being able to have different technologies. So this is helpful. It helps us in the utility department knowing where lines are, which creates some issues or assistance as there are issues down the road. And so this serves as a great base upon which we will grow and expand to provide lots of information internally and externally.
Did Robert double check this data for you, Chuck? Make sure the water lines are in the right spot. He's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
no, it's over here a little more.
It's definitely not perfect, and we're gonna be adding, some things weren't on here originally, and we'll be adding that later, but going off paper maps, you have a good start.
Got a question on your
Yes.
your sewers that you were showing the photos of.
Mhm.
Are they updated annually or?
So this was done by Sam. They went out and surveyed everything, but Chuck and I have discussed kind of a maintenance program of where we would be going to update those, like on an
We'll get you a
every
camera.
few year.
Well, I'm just saying, you say
Basis.
you can see grease or something down there. I mean,
Yeah.
You have to get the complaint first or?
Put it on everybody's board.
Well, anytime they go out and do maintenance, anytime
your
the crews
manholes,
go out and do
there
any
you go.
kind of maintenance, they'll start making records on
Okay.
this, so we'll keep it updated. And, you know, a valve exercising program, a hydrant test program, a manhole inspection program, and all these, it takes a lot of time and a lot of staff, but, you know, it will start populating it as we go. We'll get videos for our slip line program this year. We'll have before and after of all those lines, so people can see. And if people have problems, obviously we can get that information in there. And what it'll start doing, and I imagine at some point there'll be some program that will say, you know, highlight or identify somehow, this line's had 15 breaks, you know, and then we can take a look at it. So we just got to get to that point, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, I figured out the right of way work. So I can go in and click whatever is happening. So we'll do fiber. And then I can just click like the areas that it'll be in. This isn't very pretty, but and then it'll create that area. So then if the public goes on the website and they're like, why are there people in my yard? Why are there flags in my yard? They can see that this is there. So it's just an added thing to help, you know, communicate what's going on. So I'm going to delete that tomorrow. But if you guys have any questions or think of any kind of more information you want to see at a later date, you can always email me and we can get that added. Or look at ways for it to be added.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Good. Yeah. Chuck, do you have show and tell for us? Or you just like bringing a pipe to the meetings? Oh, okay. We'll wait. All right, next item on the agenda is fireworks event approvals. This is an this
This
is
is
fun.
fantastic. I don't have to stand or anything.
Get rid of the podium.
This is far more comfortable.
Sorry, Kelly. You can have this for the regular meeting.
That is Kelly's desk.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for having me here. As far as this evening's discussion on fireworks, we've talked about fireworks several times over the last, at least however long I've been here, been many times prior to that. Currently, discharge of fireworks only is allowed around the 4th of July between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m., July 3rd through the 5th. Any fireworks display outside of that time has to be approved by you all as the board. That was something that was brought forward with the opening of White Iron Ridge. With weddings, they started to have an interest in fireworks send off at the end of the night. And since then, there have been several requests for fireworks displays that's come in front of you all, which has become repetitive. And we've gotten to the point where you all requested that staff take a look at administrative approvals, looking at different ways that other communities do this. Administrative approvals usually come with a prior approval from the Fire Protection District. We do have Chief Klein with us here this evening, if you have any questions for him as far as this process. But going through an application, what we're looking at is requiring several different documents such as insurance, contact information, fireworks display information, notification requirements to the area residents, as well as written approval from the Fire Protection District. And then once the applicant provides all the proper information, that is when That would all be submitted to Ms. Wagner, and she would then approve that and then put the notification in the city administrative report that would be notifying you all. It would also then notify the police department, just in case there are any complaints that come in that evening. But as far as notifications, you all would still know, our fire protection district would know, the area residents would be required to know as well. And then through all of that, there would be less resolutions that would have to be coming in front of you all. That would be more repetitive, and more communication as well between the organization or the company that is shooting off the fireworks and the city as well, because we'll have a lot more information from them as well. So at this time, we are looking for feedback from you all on this process. Again, Chief Klein is here. If you have any questions of him, of what they look for when they inspect an area for a fireworks display, and then also on the application form as well, that would be required with the administrative approval.
And I have a question on the form that will be filled out and then sent to Cynthia. There was four checklists, 4 things to checklist. What do they have to do now? Are those what they have to do now already, or are there additional items on there now on the proposal?
So as far as what happens right now, it's just a contact to Brandy, I believe. To request. Mhm.
Those items included in the checklist we go through to bring the information forward for board approval. So they meet all those requirements currently. This would just be moving through the process administratively.
Okay, so
That's
there's
current-
already,
That's that level of review is already occurring and the requirements.
okay, so
we have the
if I wanted to
communication with the
shoot
chief.
fireworks off, there'd be forms for me to get, not just that one that you guys fill out, but there'd be forms for all those 4 for me to grab and take it to the chief or whoever, right, that needs to approve it, right? There's already that out there.
There's not, it's not out there currently. The process, this is the process we follow, put into that form and checklist format.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Well, I do like the idea of somebody like White Iron Ridge who kind of knows the routine. This is their business versus kind of bogging down, if you will, to the city administrator and us. I mean, it certainly is helpful to have a calendar reminder, but I like what we're proposing to have involve Chief Klein. And so I'm just think that
Just for clarification, Chief Klein currently is involved.
Yes.
he
reaches
is,
all
I
those
know, but
requests out,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely. No, thank you, Cynthia. But I just think when we have a regular vendor that does this on a regular basis, this would be kind of a blanket permit would be the way to go.
And that is something that Chief Klein has talked about previously, since they do use the same fireworks company consistently for their send-offs.
Anything else? You may have a request from another entity in town to start shooting fireworks. So just a heads up. Kearney started shooting them after football game during touchdown, so now the school district is asked about it.
And is that something, I know we've talked about this, Alderman Hartman has referenced White Iron Ridge. Is the board okay with this type of a process, administrative approval? And is that administrative approval for White Iron Ridge only, for all applications? Is there any stipulation?
I
the
think
board
it's
wants
still,
to put
I
on
think
that?
if it's a new vendor, they need to come to us first,
Okay.
just for
For at least an
to
initial
amend
review and.
your, yeah.
Is there if there's let's say it's real windy or something, is there a certain point where they say, no, it's not gonna happen?
I'll have
Oh,
Chief Klein talk
Chief.
to that.
Definitely not shooting any lanterns up, floating lanterns. One day we'll have floating lanterns.
All right,
Does that-
there are several requirements. The nice thing about fireworks are that they are heavily regulated by the state of Missouri. So, and that would be my first question when anyone wants to use them for any other event is who is the shooter? Because the type of fireworks that we're talking about are the professional grade that require a permit, they require proper storage. There's a lot that goes on to it, which is why I feel a lot more comfortable with an annual approval and then a case-by-case approval, or an annual permit and a case-by-case approval for the discharge. When it comes to the set itself, they are made aware of the responsibility, and those companies, of course, take that very seriously. So they're considering wind conditions. It honestly has a lot to do with humidity as well, because of the rounds won't go as high as they're designed to, and you get more material on the ground. And then they're also looking at dry conditions. So honestly, right now, I hope we get some rain because we're kind of teetering on that. But that is something that's been stressed to them all along is, and they are well aware of it, is they're responsible. So, which, to highlight a little bit on the lantern issue, that's where it becomes an issue, because who's responsible for that? If it's individuals doing it versus a company, it's harder to hold someone responsible. So there's a lot of parameters that they have to meet. And then it does come down to an actual shoot time decision of if the conditions are favorable for them to set off the fireworks.
Nice thing about White Iron Ridge too is they have a big open field.
And I think
space.
that's what, as a contractor, if they're looking at doing anything with, for the school district, it's going to be more problematic because of the fallout requirements, the fallout zone requirements of how big, the bigger the fireworks they set off, the bigger that area has to be. There's homes there, there's spectators, everybody's pretty close. So that might be difficult for them to
They shoot them
accomplish.
from White Iron Ridge.
Yeah, there you go.
Close
There you go.
enough.
There you go. Or the drone thing or something
There you
like
go.
that.
Yeah, fly the drones up.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no lanterns ever. Don't buy lanterns. They float. They land wherever they want to. Cynthia, do you have everything you need? Is anybody?
Chief just indicated that I don't think we outlined in the memo, and one question, I guess, would it help? Would it make things easier? I know we talked about White Iron Ridge. Chief had commented about an annual permit, so that then on an annual basis, we can ensure that we know who's shooting them off. There can be that review, make sure there haven't been any issues. And then on a case by case basis, administrative approval. Is that something that the board would be okay with, and we can? Okay. So we'll come up with that process.
Beginning of the year, November 1, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Are you all okay with administrative approvals between now and the end of the year for?
Yes.
Amanda's on if you guys have questions. How many weddings you got that shooting fireworks between now and the end of the year?
We have one more wedding currently on the 16th of October.
No. Well, and Amanda, I would just like to thank you all for the communication to the neighborhood. I know that we worked out a few wrinkles very early on in the process, and you all were very responsive to those requests for that communication, and that is appreciated.
They actually reached out to me today and asked if they should post on Uncensored as well. And I said, yes, just turn comments off.
Yes, so we will do that, but thank you for the tip on the comments.
So get the reach a little more there. All right. Anything else on fireworks? No? All right. Awesome. Moving on. Next item is discussion of Founder's Day. Ms. Wagner, is this you or?
I just
Matter.
had kind of a placeholder here in the packet based on, and I don't know if Mayor or Alderman Russell want to address earlier this year. Alderman Russell brought up a question about observing Founder's Day in some fashion. And I did reach out, and the information included in the memo here outlines how the Historical Society has typically celebrated it. The timing of that celebration falls at the same time as Lake Fest. So I've kind of outlined some of the information included for Lake Fest, and I know representatives from both of those groups are here. So.
Yep. So we've got Katie and it looks like Carol Dawkins online. And then we've got Shauna and Sherry in the room. So if anybody has any questions for them, go for it. Alderman Russell, what do you got? What are you thinking?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, what I was looking at and what I spoke briefly with the mayor about was having a Founder's Day for the founding of Smithville. And looking at if we'd have some type of, obviously be in the summer and have some type of a celebration, make sure that other communities around know, right? Make it in my mind, just make it kind of a big deal, right? And a celebration, we talked about if it's a day that possibly having the city offices closed. If it's a weekend date, that's something else, right? That we'd need to work in conjunction with other festivities that are going on. So that was kind of the start of it. And I wanted to kind of get the ball rolling and see what you guys thought about it and where, what direction you think we should head.
So if you want to grab the mic first, Shauna, you can, to kind of go, we met, Lake Fest crew and I met before this meeting to kind of talk about what they're thinking for this year. And then I know I've talked to Ms. Stafford a little bit as well on why they picked that weekend for Founder's Day and kind of where some synergies can exist. So what do you got lined up for Lake Fest in 2023?
Every year, then we could just, it'll be kind of repetitive. Everyone knows that there's going to be a festival that weekend. If we want to tie it in with the Founders Club, we could definitely try to work together. And we all, by means, try to collaborate a little bit if you like. But we're going to try to keep it consistently. We met with Mayor Boley before and took some ideas back. We meet every month. So we try to bring up, we have a lot of our stuff already planned this year. So we're kind of ahead of the game this year. But we do like to have, maybe we can all meet in the future and get some more feedback. But if you would like to collaborate, we definitely would be open to discuss that.
What days are your meetings?
It is the second Wednesday of every month, and
And
we
it's-
meet up at the Coulter's Bus Farm.
Okay. So Alderman Russell, if you want to put that on your calendar, what time?
6:30 is what we try to
Okay.
do.
And then, and I know you talked earlier about you guys have set up a separate entity to do the kids side of things as well.
Yes, this year we have done a Smithville Lake Festival as well as Little Kids Lake Festival. The reason why is because of alcohol being served. We wanted to bring more to the kids this year. So we have went in and reached out to the people that use for Gower, did their festival, and we're bringing some of those programs down to us for the kids this year. So you will see hopefully a lot more kids down there this year because we're going to have more things for them to do. That's what it is all for. We're trying to do this for all ages, enjoy it all.
Yeah. And one thing we talked about before the meeting is kind of stretching it out a little more of using some more of the downtown properties and working with the Parks Department to make sure they have power requirements and things now and not try to scramble the day of or the week of or whatever, right? It's kind of get it laid out, find out what your power requirements are so we don't have to worry about it, water, everything, all that stuff. So Matt's got almost a full crew again, so we can, yeah.
Perfect. And I think with bringing those kids, additional, all these locations, we'll probably have to reach out to you about, but we'll try to get with you in the next month or two, once we've got all that set.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions for us or feedback for us from last year?
I like that you guys are getting on it early. I know one thing we talked about is you guys are gonna have people make sure that they're falling behind to help pick up trash, or if they have horses, they're responsible for taking care of the horses. Just getting, some more of us involved in the event as well. I think making the Monday after that weekend a city hall closed day would maybe encourage folks to participate and be there and not have to worry about getting back to work the next day. Especially when Matt's crew has worked all day Saturday, it's kind of hard to get back to work on Monday because they get in at like 6 a.m. for some reason. It's early. Same thing with the streets crew, Chuck. Cleaning the streets early. They look nice though. Then Katie, do you have anything to add? What you guys are planning for 23 or how we can help extend this downtown?
I actually like you might have to turn your speaker down. I'm at Miss Carol's house. Oh, one
Yeah, you're
second, there's
echoing.
feedback. Okay, all right. Is that better? I'm at Miss Carol's house, Miss Dawkins' house, so I had to turn her speaker down. Actually, I think it's great. Our first Founders Day was 2017. And I think it's great that the Lake Fest is going on at the same time, because that also, I mean, people already are downtown, and maybe some might just wander on down to the Smithville Historical Museum and Inn. Um, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's fabulous. And especially with the more kids things, the better, because we try to do kids games and well, I buy all the games and donate them. But the one thing that we do is the reason why we do it, the date that we do it, it's always Father's Day weekend. And that reason is because if you want to do the math and look back, and I'm pretty sure my math was somewhat correct. Humphrey Smith actually died on Father's Day, if Father's Day existed back then. And that's when I brought that to my board at that time in the beginning of like January 2017, when we're planning all of our events. And that was just when I put it out there, because it just made sense. I mean, not too many Founders Day, Father's Day, we do Mother's Day and, celebrate that real big. And but that's why we do it. And I think it's great that the Lake Fest is going on at the same time. I mean, it's not like we get a lot of people that stay for a very long time. They just come in, look at the museum, and, we just have some raffle gifts and rock painting. We do a little rock painting, and we incorporated that because that's a military thing when you go see a chaplain or whatever. And I work very closely with 3 different chaplains, and that is a major program. And it's something that I was like, well, we could do that for our Founders Day. And yeah, the kids love it. They mostly they all paint a rock. I mean, and they give it to Dad, and they can put it in their garden or whatnot. But that's about all I have to say. Do you have anything to say? Yeah. No. Any questions? I mean,
I believe that maybe we could even try to provide your events, maybe, and try to put it in maybe our timeline, just so that you can get more foot traffic down there. And we can talk about that and collaborate, so that we could say rock painting that too, and provide that so that everyone knows where everything is going on at the town at the same time.
Sounds
I
good.
think that's wonderful. And this past year, we actually had a live band, and they're reenactors from some of the historian on the Shoal Creek Living History Museum board. So I had their reenactors come out this year, and they played the fiddle and played. They do own bought the copyrights to certain songs and stuff like that. And that was a little different this year. I would say that was probably my husband's idea more than mine, because I never even thought about having a band playing on the front porch of the Patterson house. But it turned out great, and everybody had fun. But people just don't stay. They come and they stay for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and they come in groups. So it's kind of like dies down and picks back up. It helped with Chops Barbecue out. It was really nice to have them out. So we absolutely appreciated them doing that. So. But that would be great with the Lake Fest, and we could kind of, cross paths as well, and advertise for the Lake Fest as well.
We'd appreciate that.
And when you guys do the boat,
Absolutely.
when you guys do the boat race, do you end it at the bridge, or
We do.
can you go past the bridge so that it's close to the Patterson house?
Right.
Where you figure?
Yeah, that's where it ends. It
Okay.
starts up on what road is it that starts at? Kind of maybe the end of Liberty Street. The
Okay.
guys put it in, and then last year, Mr. V. Brock collected them all for us and brought them back up for the kids to have.
Well, maybe we can get them the collection area at the Patterson house so people go there for the kids' activities.
Most definitely.
Any other questions or comments, Alderman Chevalier?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're, still gonna have, Alderman Russell and everyone, we're gonna try to, figure out what the needs are. I'm just curious, is there gonna be like a date that we have to commit to something by? I mean, is there some sort of a timeline that we need to have a plan in place?
For which part of it?
Anything?
For sponsorship? or
Yeah,
the day
sponsorship
of-
or whatever.
I know they're gonna make an ask to the Parks Department on like the reservation of the square and rental in exchange for sponsorship, which we've done with other events too. So Matt, when do you normally bring that to the board whenever you get it, right? Do you already have the application for Lake Fest this year? Okay. Yeah, once you guys get that in, that's when it'd be nice if we can get it before the end of the year. We really want to try and start get stuff before December 1st because we want to try and publish a calendar of events,
Okay.
especially with the Main Street group.
Okay.
Trying to
I'll
get
touch base
those.
with Barb Lamb. She's one responsible on our board for that, and I'll touch base with her and try to get it to you guys.
And I will say, I think this would be a really good event, having all this stuff happen at one time. And if this was an opportunity for the city to get more involved, with this once a year type thing, I mean, this would be a really good test run.
I think
See
it'd
if
be
something like
fun to
that
have
would work.
Chuck's street sweeper following the parade, just pick it up as it goes. Show everybody how awesome our street
He already
sweeper is.
volunteered to get in the dunk tank. I mean, he can't. be
Did you really?
replaced. No, I'm just like.
Are you gonna wear the Hawaiian shirt and the pink shorts?
Pink shorts?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay, Cynthia's gonna cry now.
Well, I thank you guys all for your input and look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mayor, just one thing on is it direction from the board? I know this is work session, but on potentially giving them a day off, the city is that direction from us or is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something you guys can agree to amend the handbook to add that additional. We added some floating days last year. But I think if it's going to be a citywide celebration, to Alderman Russell's point, it might be a good time to give staff the day off. So that way they're encouraged to be here that weekend too.
No, I think that's a good idea, Mayor, but I'd like to hear the rest of the boards.
I'm okay with that.
Shipley?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Alderman Hewlett always takes Mondays off because it's a day of rest. Don't say that too loud.
Well, and if I might to just jump in on there, I guess to dovetail on Alderman Chevalier's question of city participation in this, what is the anticipation of, I know Parks Department works in support of that. We'd have an application done and then the coordination day of. Is there expectation that the city then is also a partner in this with the Historical Society and Lake Fest? Is that to what? It
I think
sounds
that-
like there are a lot of details kind of been worked out. It's just then look to us for some
I-
assistance and things as those
I
come
think
up.
I think they're more asking for, like we've done with anyone else that uses a square, of just waiving this
So that-
fee for
okay.
the square in exchange for sponsorship.
Okay.
One thing I told them it's not on the table is police services. We've still got to pay for that, and they're
Yeah.
100% on board with that. We've got to pay our officers. But yeah, the square rental, we can look at that. They're not, you guys aren't planning to use the senior center this year, right? Is that what we're talking about? No, just the square and the parade. Yeah. So that makes it a little easier on Matt.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood what
Yeah.
involvement we needed to be.
I think the
So it's
aldermen are
basically
gonna
that
put
process.
together a float with Alderman Hartman getting his tractor out.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'd be welcome to with the Kubota tractor. It'd be fun for city
There you go.
perspective. Yeah.
Trust his driving skills. He ripped off his hoses one day. but-
Cool.
And then to your point, Mayor, and I heard around the table, support of adding a day off. We are bringing some handbook changes at the next meeting to clean up a little bit of language that we had missed in our last update. So if the board is okay, well, we can add, as the mayor noted, the last handbook update you all did, we added 2 personal holidays for employees. We could then add language that the Monday following Father's Day or the Monday following Founder's Day celebration.
Are we gonna
Good with that,
phrase it?
Cynthia. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Alderman Russell, you got the date and time for their meetings?
Yes, I do. It's 6:30 on the second Wednesday, which would be next Wednesday, right? And what was the location again?
Coulter's Bus Barn.
Okay.
They have snacks. That's what I've told. There's a bunch of buses there.
Thank you.
Don't bring your fancy shoes. All right, anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Hartman,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our work session.
do I have a second. Alderman Chevalier seconds. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. See y'all in a couple minutes, 19 minutes, 18 minutes. Mhm.